Poinsettia, Chapter 22. That night, all was quiet. In fact, it was insanely quiet. The boarder's home was silent and vacant. That was just the sign that was being waited for. Over the wall came a young man in black trousers, a black waistcoat, and a black trench coat. Behind him, over the wall, fell two other young men. "Hush!" the first boy shouted. "You want to get the attention of everyone in town." "Sorry, Darren," from one of the others. "I slipped." "It's still wet and icy up there," from the other. "Jeez! Peter and Harold, the clumsy oafs! Get up! We have to get inside and get those files." "What kind of files are we looking for?" Peter asked. "A bunch of stuff with notes about the meetings my dad was in." "I don't like the looks of this," Harold muttered. "What if we're being set up?" "Would you shut up?" Darren scolded. He went to the door and turned the doorknob. "You don't honestly think people would leave a door unlocked at night anymore, do you?" Peter asked. "Especially if your husband just got shot to death?" "Quit being so insensitive," Darren shouted, opening the door. He smiled. "Maybe she's just a complete idiot." "Do you think she's pretty?" Harold asked. "She was Mr. Boarder's wife. He was an old guy," Peter pointed out. "He got himself a young wife," Darren explained. "So if we see her, maybe we can say hello." He chuckled, leading the other two inside. There was one bad thing about breaking into a rich guy's home. The homes were normally very big and had a lot of places that things could be hidden. "All right, let's split up. Grab anything you can find that looks important and is paper." "Can we nab anything that looks like it's worth something?" Harold asked. "And put it where?" Peter spat. "We have pockets." "Small things," Darren agreed, rushing off into the darkness with his lamp. "Hurry!" And he waited no longer for the response of his friends. He set right to work, going into the conservatory and pulling out drawers and looking anywhere that would have important papers. He scowled the whole time, cussing under his breath. This was a hobby of his, but the circumstances weren't exactly ideal. Darren had finally come home after spending time away. Mr. O'Brien wasn't really sure where he was, but Darren at least was kind enough to reassure him that he was alive. It was the least he could do for the old man. He hadn't been home more than an hour, swapping out clothes and grabbing a bite to eat before Mr. O'Brien shouted over him. "Enjoy running away with the circus?" "What makes you think I did that?" Darren asked. Mr. O'Brien chuckled. "Perhaps it's what I imagined you'd do. To get away from a civilized life. Anything less would be criminal and shameful, don't you think?" Darren merely looked away and continued to eat the meal before him. As he chewed, he turned up his nose, saying nothing. Mr. O'Brien sat down beside him. "It's a pity we could never connect as father and son. Pity it is that I cannot be proud of you." Darren grit his teeth, clutching the fork in his fist now. "You were never proud of me. Why should you? I'm not your child." "Well, that's not true." Darren glared him in the eyes. "The only reason I'm here is because of your worthless pity. You pitied me and you pitied my mother. You never loved her." Mr. O'Brien scowled. "Don't get cheeky, Darren. You should be thankful I've accepted you. I could have denied you and left both of you much worse off." "There's worse off than death?" Darren asked. "Mother was just some disgusting fling, excitement to hide from your wife. She was poor, but she was beautiful. I know the story. She was lowly, so she had no say. She was easy prey, so you lured her in with gifts and sweet words, took advantage of her naivety. Rather than letting her live her life to find a man who would be with her forever, you doomed her to never be anything more than a mistress, a woman of convenience and nothing more." He slammed his hand down. "Then you gave me to her. You would have turned your back on her then, abandoning her and me. It was only because she had some guts and threatened to tell everybody. Your reputation would have been destroyed. Your pride was your most precious thing. So you simply accepted me to avoid losing face. Your wife was none too happy, I'm sure, having to take in a bastard child and pretend it was hers. And my mother came to work as a servant in your home. You killed both of them with your pride. Mother died of stress and a broken heart, humiliated. And your wife died a husk of a woman, embittered and spiteful. Some man you are. A hand flew through the air, slapping Darren across the face, leaving a small trail of blood to trickle down his lip. Don't you sass me, boy. I have a job for you, and you'll do it if you want to end up better off than they did. He merely smirked. A job? What? To make you look good? I grew up a thief to bring you shame, sir. Ah, the son of the successful and respectable Mr. O'Brien, a common street thief. How that must hurt. Why would I help you now? Mr. O'Brien grabbed Darren by the shirt and yanked him up. Boy, you listen here, you disgusting little wretch. Lord McCarran is in need of your services, and if you do it, he'll see to it that you may actually be able to make a career out of this disgrace you've chosen. Refuse, and not only do all of us go down, but so do you. He's intent on putting you behind bars if you do not cooperate. Darren scowled. Is that so? Well then. He then chuckled, growing a wicked smirk. I suppose I have no choice then. Darren knocked over a vial of ink. Being as there was nothing of importance on the desk, he didn't worry too much about it. Damn it, old man, I can't believe I'm wasting my efforts on this. Or on you. Upstairs, Peter and Harold were sifting through the master bedroom and the library. Peter, who was in the master bedroom, sifted through shelves and in closets and cabinets. His eyes fell on the large bed, and he smiled, rushing over to it and flopping back on it. Oh, what I'd give to have a bed like this. It's better than the crap I had to sleep on. A hum escaped his throat as he drifted into a short daydream. He sat up and rubbed the back of his neck. Well, there's work to be done. Gotta stay focused, old boy. He got up and heard a growl. He paused. What was that? He squinted as he peered into the shadows. Oh, man! Did the boarders have a dog? He got up slowly, tense as he heard the growls continue. Here, boy. Just ask. I won't hurt you. No, I'm a friend. It was then that the growls grew silent. He let out a sigh, going to the dresser, a mirror atop, and began to go through the drawers. The glass suddenly cracked, causing him to look up into it. What in the world? In the next instant, he let out a terrified yell as a werewolf shot from behind and latched onto his shoulder and flung him over his body and slammed him onto the floor. The whole ordeal done with Angus's mouth alone, showing the strength he possessed. The cries alerted Harold, who came running to his aid. Peter! What? Oh my God! Angus held Peter firmly in his teeth, his predatory eyes falling on Harold in the doorway, as white as a ghost. He grinned a bloody and saliva-filled grin, as he could almost see the boy's hair growing white. He let out a growl, slowly rising upright on his hindquarters, holding Peter like a dog toy in his mouth by his throat. Peter! Angus dropped the body. If Peter wasn't dead, he wouldn't last much longer as the body trembled and bounced in shock and convulsions. What the hell are you? Harold cried, turning to run. Darren! Angus let out a howl before leaping over Peter's body and bounding after Harold, eager to make the chase. Downstairs, Darren slammed down a book. Would you two stop fooling around up there? He demanded. This is serious work. He shook his head as he began to look in a cabinet. Stupid guys. He then heard a rustling and stood up straight. Oh, Mrs. Borders? Have we disturbed you? My, how brave of you to investigate all by yourself. Do you miss your husband? He chuckled wickedly. Don't worry. You don't have to be lonely. Me and my buddies will treat you good and give you a little... he said as he turned around, unable to finish his sentence as a hand flew at his throat and lifted him into the air and slammed him into a wall. His eyes went as wide as saucers. Lord McIntyre? Gavin grinned. It wasn't his sweet grin, but that of the predator he had suppressed, the fanged grin and wild red eyes, even the flowing hair behind him, even though there was no air circulating in the house. You're a monster! Darren cried out. Vampire! Vampire! Let me go! Do you wish to show me a little, boy? Do you not find me young and beautiful? Damn monster! Let me go! I'll tell everybody about you! I'll expose you for the devil you are! Gavin laughed, throwing Darren hard to the ground, surely breaking one of the boy's arms. Who has sent you, boy? This doesn't concern you, beast! I'll find out one way or another, boy. Be good and tell me so I don't have to make any more of a mess. Darren grit his teeth, grabbing a poker from the stand by the fireplace and swinging it when Gavin tried to come near, slicing through his shirt and cutting his arm. Gavin backed off with a snarl. Aha! Take that, devil! Darren cried out, getting to his feet, holding the poker like a sword with his good hand. I'll swipe off your head with this thing. I'll impale you through the heart. Vampires are powerful but so vulnerable. What do you have to say to that, monster? Gavin slowly grew a grin as he held his hand over his wound. He let out a soft chuckle. Darren grew rather agitated by it. What's so funny? You are so entertaining. But what can one lone vampire do against such a strong warrior as yourself? He said with great amusement, yet in a tone that was dark and wicked. Retreat then, hero. Darren spat at him, turning and running from the conservatory and into the main hall, and he skid to a stop when he saw Harold falling down the stairs in panic, bloody and with broken bones. Darren! Darren, make it stop! Darren's eyes flew to the top of the stairs where he saw Angus coming down. A werewolf! Before any other reaction could be made, Gavin's hand came from behind and grabbed Darren by the back of the head and held him fast, making him drop the poker which Gavin kicked out of reach with his boot. Look upon it, boy. Look! He laughed. See the hell to which you have condemned your friends. Darren trembled in fright as Angus crawled over to Harold and wrapped his muzzle completely around the boy's head, sinking his teeth into the skull with a low growl. He then began to shake his head furiously, like a wild animal trying to tear off a piece of meat, which wasn't too far from what he was doing. He flung himself up on his hindquarters, pulling the head from the body, which he held down with his foot. The head remained attached to the spine, which detached from the rest of the body, splitting the back open like a zipper and dangling from the head in Angus's lips. Angus turned to face Gavin and Darren with a snarl. The head's eyes were rolling wildly, confused. The lips were agape except for the barely audible plea that escaped before the head went completely silent. Darren, help. And then it went black. No! Darren cried out. You sons of bitches! You'll rot in hell for this! Save us a seat when you get there, Gavin chuckled in a breeze of a voice that sent chills up Darren's spine. He moved his eyes as if to turn around. Gavin yanked the boy back, sinking his teeth into the neck and drinking long, heavy slurps, sucking the body as dry as he could manage, quenching a thirst long untended to. The human blood. Oh, how werewolf blood could never compare to the terror and adrenaline in a human's blood. It wasn't long before the body became heavier and heavier as it fell weak, then limp, then lifeless. Gavin dropped Darren as Angus dropped Harold's head. The vampire removed his handkerchief and daintily wiped his mouth clean. Angus kneeled before him. Was this meal to your liking? I haven't felt this alive in years, Angus, and my adrenaline runs wild. I've been called to a challenge. He let out a little laugh. The blood gave him all the knowledge he needed. Lord McCarran is secretly leading the Board of Trustees behind my back, the corrupt fool. Like father, like son, it seems, Angus grinned. Huh. 2 weeks from now will be another meeting. Let's Laura, you, and myself get through as much of the paperwork as we can. Those men were not wealthy benefactors. They are delicious cattle awaiting the slaughter. You're going to kill them all? Wouldn't that look suspicious? I won't go through such desperate measures if I don't have to. But it seems our little Judas is intent on turning the disciples against me. He kicked the body at his feet. Come, let's go home. What's about to mess? Angus asked. Clean it up if you wish. I don't care. We cannot be linked to this horrible mess. Come, we must retake the board, and my town. Aye, master, Angus shouted, standing and saluting a fuzzy salute. He bounded to his master's side until they were outside. Gavin brought a hand to his lips, closing his eyes almost seductively. He kissed his fingertip and held it to the sky. A colony of bats, unheard of at this time of year, flew about him until he was nothing but a mass of bats. In the next instant they all scattered, leaving no trace of Gavin where he had been.